Hey folks, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we're going to cover several quick tips, and to start off we're going to look at changing the theme. So up to this point most of the videos have been using the dark theme, and in case you haven't seen how to change that, there's this little icon up here in the top, and my preference is usually one of the darker themes, and there are several other themes you can pick from, but today we're going to show ProjectionLab with the modern theme. So let's talk about fixed date plans versus now-based plans. Most of our past tutorials use plans that always start from now, or what we call a now-based plan. But alternatively, you can use fixed date plans. As ProjectionLab has matured, we believe that the now-based plans tend to be best for most people. Especially true when people tend to make frequent changes to their plan. So early on when you're just getting used to the tool. They're more intuitive when it comes to periodic updates. You'll make your periodic updates using the current finances section. So in this case, all accounts in your plan automatically pull data from current finances if you're using a now-based plan. However, if you prefer fixed date plans, you want your plans to start at a certain day of the year or to start in the past at a certain day, your current finances updates will be displayed as an overlay on top of your plan. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So in order to show a fixed date plan, what we can do, we could start from scratch, but what we can also do is just create a new plan, and we will clone an existing plan. We'll select our base plan for that, and we'll select fixed date. And in this case, you're going to have to choose a custom set of starting conditions. This will use the current finances for those starting conditions by default, but you can override that, and we'll walk through that now. So to give us a little bit of data to look at, and to give us some time to show changes, we'll pick January 1st of 2023. We're currently in April 2024, so we'll go ahead and select continue there. And at this point, your starting conditions are again copying from current finances, but we'll make some changes here. In particular, let's knock down the value of the home. We'll go ahead and we'll change the savings balance to $35,000. We'll change our investment balances as well. Put some up, put some down, just to give us a little variety here. And if you were doing this for yourself, you would ideally have records you'd be using, financial statements to go back to if you wanted to go in the past to set up a fixed date plan. For the rest of these things, we will just copy the plan inputs as is. So income, cash flow priorities, expenses. And if you're not familiar with these sections, this tutorial, you would probably be best going to the Getting Started video to see how these things are set up. This video in particular is intended for folks who've probably already done the Getting Started. And we'll continue here, and you just leave all these settings the way they were from the original base plan. And we can go up here and change the name of the plan before we continue. So we call this fixed date base plan, confirm, and now we have this new plan here. So by default, we're showing the same graph, the stacked by category graph that was being displayed in the original plan, but we can change that, and we have access to a new plot for fixed date plans. This is going to be net worth plus progress. This teal line here, this is the progress line. So if we want, we can kind of zoom in, and by showing only 5 years here, we will see this in a little more detail. And what we've done here, I preloaded some data to show the actual progress versus the projected net worth line. And what this is doing is we are pulling progress points from the progress section up here, and I'll show that in a minute. And it's overlaying that to what the plan projected from the original start date. So let's take a look at progress points. So if you did have past progress points that you wanted to load in, you could come here and you could add those. And anytime you make a change to current finances, it will automatically add a line here as well. Most of these were automatically created just from at different points when we were using this this account for creating other tutorials. But if you have financial records for past years, you could go in here and use the add button, and you could add those progress points as well. And or if you needed to make a change to one, you can go in and you can edit them and change the values. So at this point, you'll see just the roll up values here can be edited, and that's basically all there is to progress points. And let's go ahead and add a progress point. Say we had a July 1st, and you could then make a change to that progress point, for example. So now we have that older point displayed there, and you can see the sort of all the progress points over time. So aside from progress points, the basic differences here, some other things we'll highlight. Your currency display options are now going to, instead of saying today's currency and actual currency, you'll be showing the date of the start date of the plan as instead of in place of today's, and the actual currency works the same way between both plan types. This terminology continues as well through all of the plan items. So if you copied your fixed date plan from a now-based plan, anything that was defined in today's currency would now be defined in the currency of the start year. You'll see an additional setting up here, starting conditions. You can actually see start date and starting conditions here from these settings. So if we go ahead and click start date, you'll see an option here to change this if you wanted to. You can change your start date. You can change the starting conditions. This is where you'd have to go to change the conditions from that you're modeling from the beginning of the plan. So again, any changes to current finances do not update fixed date plans. That's a fundamental difference. So if you prefer to be able to use current finances and have those changes reflect automatically in your plan, then the now-based plan is the way to go. And that's pretty much it for fixed date versus now-based plans. But if you have any more questions, please feel free to send those over to us or check us out on Discord. We can discuss it with you further. So let's talk about tax configurations. We see this from time to time with users that they sometimes have an incomplete tax configuration. So let's go ahead and look at tax settings. If you're a US user, you will almost certainly want to use estimate for me tax settings. So you can enable this by, if you don't have both of these, ordinary income tax and capital gains tax displaying this, you probably want to set that. There can be cases where you need to override it if your tax situation is just a little too different than sort of the default settings, or you need some special handling. But for the most part, you're gonna want to apply this, and you can use the international tax preset to turn on this mode to make sure that it's enabled. And this will set all of these settings here to the defaults. But the second piece you need to do is actually go into ordinary income tax and then set your state. So sometimes people don't realize this section is in here, so you want to go in and set your state. If you live in Florida versus California, it's going to make a pretty big difference. But alternatively, if you're an international user or not non-US user, we do have a number of handy tax presets here as well. Say, for example, you're Canadian living in British Columbia, you would want to apply that tax preset, and then as you wish to further customize, you may want to add other tax modifiers. For example, if you're an old age security recipient, you may want to model your old age security phase out, and that can be done with some additional tax settings. So if you're interested in any of that, you can contact us on Discord, and we can help in some of those more advanced scenarios. Also, on the topic of taxes, tax withholding is a related topic, and you can set tax withholding on salary, hourly income, or custom income. We have shown this actually in the tax analytics video, and I would strongly encourage folks to check out the tax analytics video. But basically, just to do a quick review here on your, say, salary item, you can set your withhold for taxes. And this is important to, accurately reflect the amount of tax that's being withheld. One common confusion around this is sometimes people think that the withholding should be equal to their full withholding. That might include other things like any payroll deductions. And ideally, what you actually want to do here is just withhold the amount that is for taxes. Anything else deducted from your paycheck should be modeled as an expense, and in order to accurately model your cash flow. So there are ways to do that to sort of differentiate between taxes and expenses that are payroll deductions. Let's say, for example, we had a 25% withholding, but actually only 20% of this is probably going to taxes, and the other 5% is for some medical insurance deduction or something. That's probably a high amount, but we'll just use that as an example. So let's correct this. So let's say we're only going to withhold 20% for taxes, and this expense, let's just say for simplicity, this is a new expense. We'll call it healthcare for health insurance, and we'll just give this a number. We'll make it roughly $4,500 a year, and have that just match inflation. We'll make this tax deductible, and model as a payroll deduction from Ashley's salary. And let's call it payroll deduction. And go ahead and add that. And now this would be a slightly more accurate way to model that. Now, when it comes to actually calculating your taxes, again, this is we go in this in detail in the tax analytics video. So I encourage you to look at that to see the difference between how your tax bill is estimated versus what tax withholding actually does. Let's discuss growth rates, dividends, and bond allocation. It can be easy to forget or miss the option for enabling bonds. So if you do in fact use bonds, it's probably a good idea to enable bonds and dictate the sort of bond glide path that you tend to use. So let's go ahead and go to Settings, Bonds. You can also find it up here. So by default, don't use bonds is how your plan would be set up. But assuming you do have a bond allocation, so you'd want to go ahead and click Customize Allocation, set the bond rate and dividend rate and growth rate that you believe to be accurate for you, and then if you want to, you can also sort of set this age-based glide path for what your bond allocation should be at a given age. And in the simple case, if 100% of your portfolio was in a target date fund, you may want to have the bond allocation in ProjectionLab match with that fund. Now, separate from your bond allocation, so the percentage of your portfolio that are made up of bonds, you also have growth rates. So by default, you're going to see fixed growth rates. So this is effectively the growth rate and dividend rate for the stock portion of your portfolio. So again, if by default, bonds are disabled, so effectively your portfolio is being modeled here as 100% stocks, and in which case these would be the inputs that affect the real rate of return. And then separately, but also displayed here on this page is inflation. So fixed rates are the default way to define these. There's also an advanced option if you wish to model different, again, growth rates and dividend rate for the stock portion of your portfolio, or inflation. So if you wish to customize these rates, say, for example, you want to predict slightly lower inflation for some period of time, say the next 5 years, and then perhaps after that point, a slightly higher rate of inflation, maybe. You can do that here using the control points. And lastly, less commonly used, but I think perhaps an interesting way to use historic data. You can use the historic mode. This effectively will overlay these historic rates of returns and inflation on top of your plan. So this is kind of basically a way to run like I said, sort of historical backtesting on top of your plan in plan mode. Starting at a specific year, looping back to a specific year if it runs out of years in the simulation. So, for example, if you started in 1980 and then you wanted to loop back to 28, you could do that. This will give you a very different looking plan, and a lot more ups and downs, probably more realistic in the sense of distribution, but you'd be effectively only looking at one possible outcome based on historic models. But for this type of analysis, we usually recommend looking at chance of success to be able to analyze all of the historical backtesting scenarios and then see the aggregate results. For example, we have this loaded with this is again using historical, and if we say we want historical with no looping, so we'll just do historical with looping, and go ahead and let this run. This is sort of a very basic simulation. This is basically going to run just every one trial for every year since 1928, and then you can kind of see the success rate, the overall success rate of the plan, based on all those data sets versus what we were looking at under plan mode, which was just one specific year, start year of 1928. Oh, and one last piece on bonds. So I've switched back here to just using constant fixed rates and dividend yield. And if you look at your plan, and we'll go ahead and shrink this. Go ahead and look at your plan. So we have a bond allocation here early on in the plan that's starting mostly stocks, and then as we scroll through the years, you'll see the bond amount, the 8%, 9%, et cetera, creeping up, and that's reflecting the bond allocation glide path that we've defined here. And lastly, let's talk about drawdown order. By default, you'll see drawdown order settings here. Under settings drawdown. Depending on the accounts you have in your plan, you will see a drawdown order that allows you to specify each account type. So if you, for example, if you don't have any Roth money, you won't see the Roth IRA show up here, etc. If you have cryptocurrency, you'll have an item added here for cryptocurrency. So broadly speaking, this is where you can set the precedence as to where money should be drawn and what types of accounts or what types of distributions should be made. This order is generally pretty useful for most people, the default order, but you can always change this. However, sometimes folks want to specify very specific expenses or costs to be covered by certain accounts, and that's one way that you can effectively override this global drawdown order. So in order to do that, we'll go back to plan and we'll go to expenses. Say we want to model a vacation, an extra vacation expense, and we'll go ahead and select vacation and say this is going to be $25,000, and we don't want this to come out of our emergency fund. We don't want we don't have to worry about drawing down those funds. So what we can do is just go ahead and we'll say we'll make this happen 2 years from now, and it'll be a one-time expense, and we'll go ahead and say fund with a specific account. And let's say we're going to pick, I don't know, for whatever reason, we're gonna use a Roth IRA for this, so we can kind of see the effect of that. So we select the Roth IRA, and we will go ahead and add that expense. So now, because this is a new expense item, it'll show up here if you're displaying those milestone icons. So you'll see here vacation, and then if we go to cash flow, you'll see basically ProjectionLab ends up having to pull a few different types of withdrawals here. So under free withdrawal of Roth IRA. So in this case, I guess actually I hadn't looked ahead. So this is I did this on the fly. So what happens here? This is actually an interesting case. So you will see that Ashley had free withdrawal of Roth IRA. So this is withdrawing past contributions. And then also early withdrawal of Roth IRA. So these are going to be like potentially penalized distributions. But then you'll also see that not all of basically the account did not have a high enough balance to cover the expense, but the default behavior here is to basically pull as much as possible from the account specified, and then if more money is needed, it will pull the rest of the money from cash flow. So excess money coming in through salary in this case, but if necessary, it would also pull from taxable. So it looks like, in fact, it needed to pull some money from taxable investments as well. And in our case, taxable is used because taxable is the first or the next item in the drawdown order that has available funds. So this is effectively one way to model an override to the default drawdown behavior. To see how this would change if we did not specify that account, let's just go ahead and disable the fund from account and hit save. And then we go back to cash flow, and we see here, oh yeah, looks like used excess cash from salary, and then only had to withdraw about $11,750 from taxable investments. And we have had several requests for other drawdown enhancements, so the ability to specify percentage from each type of account, or sort of to make the global drawdown order more configurable. These are definitely this is definitely an area we're strongly investigating for future optimization. And if you have additional thoughts, there will be a link in the description to send requests to the change map. We encourage you to check out the existing change map items and add comments or add your own if you have some ideas for what you'd like to see. I hope you found these quick tips useful. Thank you for watching.